So looking to mount the bottom of this intercooler, I did notice that on the frame there are already tapped holes. And how do you locate a hole when the intercooler doesn't quite line up? You can see it's on the inside and it's on the inside there. Plus I don't want as big of a gap here for bumper clearance. I want to suck that back in there. So when I do that, you can see that the holes disappear. So what I've done is I've made locating marks on the holes themselves that extend up the frame and out, so that when I slide this over, I can still see exactly where the hole was. See, there's that line there and this line here, and I can come over and drill a hole, or at least mark the hole and then take it off and drill it. All right, so now I can still see my line here. We're going to mark it down onto the intercooler, and we're going to mark it here as well. And we just come across, and that's where they intersect. Same on this side. I can see the hole there. This one's going to be a little bit funnier. It's not really in the best spot. Let's see if we can push this in a little bit. There we go. Well, now we're way off. It's all right. No one's going to see this that's not looking. So a hole there and a hole there. Let's get them drilled. All right, got the holes drilled. Let's see how I did here. That one looks close enough to buff. And this one, once I get it down where it's going to go, looks also close enough to buff. Excellent. So the holes line up enough, but a lot of times when you're dealing with old, nasty stuff, let's see if I can get this to come back out, you end up with a lot of gunk built up inside that hole. That hole's never had anything in it. And so my bolts don't really want to go in. So we got one of these guys here, and we're just going to run that up through there and get it cleaned out. Let's see if I can get this out of the way enough. Beautiful. Now let's go the other way. I'm just going to do the same thing on the other hole. If I can switch my gun here. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the other one, and then we should be golden. And we're all mounted up. I decided to mount them with Allens to keep them nice and low profile, so that they're not going to dangle down and get caught on stuff. Good and firm now. Intercooler is not going anywhere. So now we can final fit the pipes, make sure everything is fitting perfect, and then final fit the bumper, and the intercooler system will be totally complete. So after the video I did on Tuesday about losing weight personally, losing over 80 pounds, I wanted to see, based on where the car is at right now, how difficult it would be to pull another 80 pounds out of it. So there was only a little bit of the sound deadening left, so I'm going to pull the rest of that out. There's a little bit in the tunnel. We're going to pull out some more wiring out of the dash that's unnecessary, and then maybe gut the doors themselves to see if we can get 80 pounds out of the car. So I'm just going to start weighing what I pull out and keep track of the weight. Now the sound deadening, there's a lot of different methods for this sound deadening removal. Luckily, it's really cold right now. When it's really cold and you have an older car, you can just take a pry bar and you can see this stuff just peels right out. When it's warmer out, what I recommend doing is getting dry ice. You can get it at Fred Meyer, or really any grocery store has it. Get about 5 pounds of it. Get a couple of, well, I was going to say get a couple of jugs of isopropyl alcohol if you can find it. Right now it's not exactly, yeah, don't use isopropyl alcohol right now. Save that for the people that need it. But come summertime, and maybe this whole pandemic is at least under control, get yourself some isopropyl alcohol, mix it in a steel container with the dry ice. I say steel container because if you mix it in a plastic container, you'll break the container. And in a steel container, it'll kind of turn to snow. Break up the dry ice with a hammer, and then just spread it across the floor over the sound deadening pieces. And then just take one of these dead blow hammers and just start doing that. And it'll all just kind of break off in big chunks like this. And if it doesn't, you can just do what I'm doing and use the good old hammer and pry bar method. But it'll come off in big pieces even if it's hot out. But when it's cold out, luckily, old cars, it just chips right off. So the reason why we take this out, it's purely an acoustic deadening. It just tries to make the car quieter when you're driving on the road, get rid of road noise. But it actually weighs a lot. Just this one kick panel will probably be close to 5 pounds. Multiply that through the whole car, you know, it's quite a bit of weight. So I'll weigh this here in just a second. So there we go, all of it's out of there. As far as that kick panel, I'm gonna go see how much that all weighed. Empty box, gonna do the tare weight here. All right, now we're gonna go fill the box. So negative 0.8, let's see what we end up with. 5 pounds, all right, so this is all stuff that came out that's not going back in, just on that one little thing. So I need to go do this 20 more times, and then we will have equaled the amount of weight for my current goal. Quick and easy, 80-pound goal. Took 5 pounds, 325, down to 75. Let's keep going. Over here, burning it up. Woo! Melting that aluminum together. Next step, pipes. So it makes me sad sometimes when I'm working on customer cars. They come in, they're like, oh, it just needs a tune. You know, you're like, oh, this thing's got some sweet, good parts. You know, ETS, turbo kit, tile, valve. It's got a IAG built motor and everything. And you're like, okay, yeah, this is a speed density car. The customer didn't know. It's got an Omni power sensor. So I'm looking around for the air temp sensor, trying to figure out which one it is so I can scale it correctly in the tune. And I start digging around, and what do I find? But down here in the fender, I'm not even sure if you'll be able to see it. If I can get it out. And they tucked it in there really nice. This is the factory mass airflow meter hanging out, plugged in, fully wired in. There's no air temp sensor that's been wired into this. Just reading ambient temperature, and that was what they were calling air temperature for their speed density calculation. You know, you've got nice parts throughout this car, and then total absolute hack job. What the heck? So anyway, be careful where you take your car. I don't know who did the work on this thing, but just be careful where you take your car, because you might end up with something like that. Money! it's like, there we go. Look at that. That's 4 cents, 5 cents. Dude, that's a pop can. Today's weigh-in. Ooh, 11.110. 10.9 minus 0.8, about 10.1 pounds. So remembering that this car was already very lightweight to begin with, have to get pretty extreme. The dash is going back in. The idea is this thing is going to have full interior still, but all this old wiring that's no longer necessary is coming out. And because I've got the dash out, I can also gut what's underneath the dash. So a lot of this metal bracketry is designed for the airbag system, which, because the car is going to have basically, it's not using passive restraints, which is an airbag and the factory seat belts. We're going to have harnesses and a roll cage and everything. None of this is necessary for strength and structure anymore, because this is all made so that when the airbag comes out, it has something for you to hit with your face. Since we're not going to be hitting an airbag with our face, a lot of this metal can come off this thing. And this weighs quite a bit. In fact, let's see how much it weighs. All right, so let's weigh it. I got my scale. I got a crate on here just to bring things up. We're gonna go to 0 on the scale and see how much this thing weighs. So we're looking at 16 pounds, 16.6 pounds. So let's see what we can take out of it. All right, we're zeroed again, and I have gutted this dashboard now. All this crap came out of it. I am keeping the defrost. So I've left the defrost vent in and the mounting brackets on both sides, and we're at 9.9 pounds. So we've taken, you know, just around 7 pounds out of just the dash. we're gonna go see if we can get another 7 pounds out of her. So here's where we're at inside the car. Pretty much the majority of the sound deadening is out. A couple little spots where it's just glued in along the seam sealer and whatnot. Heater box is still in. The blower core will stay in. If you've ever driven a race car without a heater, it's not as much about having a heater as it is about having a defroster. So I'm going to leave the defrost and the foot so that we can at least defrost the car. But all this kind of stuff here, this is just more weight. And this is stuff you can't get to unless you pull the dash. So getting the dash out is always a good thing. I'm gonna have to pull the heater core as well, it looks like. I'm gonna get the rest of this. I'm guessing we're gonna be above 20 pounds today, which should put us in good, put us in good position to get this full 80 pounds we're looking for. All right, heater box was out. It was just a couple of bolts there, and then you had to pull through the firewall. One spot there and then one spot over there. Now I can actually get the rest of this wiring harness out. So some of this wiring harness will go back in the car when we're done, but we're gonna gut everything out of it that's non-essential. So we're gonna keep the blinkers, the windshield wipers are gonna still function through the main factory harness. I'm gonna have to repair because they cut off and stole the part of the harness that goes back to the back of the car, and it's just a bundle there. So I'm gonna have to sort out what was what in that piece of harness, but everything else is coming out. Oh, this stuff is so heavy. More hardware. Lots of hardware that's not gonna need to go back in. That'll save a ton of weight as well. Look at all this big chunk of rubber here. This stuff's such a pain in the butt to pull out. Yeah, if you've never taken your car down to the heater core, then you've never gutted your car. It's kind of a shame all this has to go back in. The reason it's all going back in is this car is intended to race in a street car class. I certainly don't have the budget to be able to be competitive in a full-on race car class. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna gut this thing down to the absolute bare minimum weight and then build it back up with just what's mandatory. Man, these little things are kind of a pain. They're these weird little plastic screw caps. They just come off with your fingers. Anyway, yeah, this is all coming out now. Get the rest of this sound deadening out. Man, it's looking pretty gutted. All right, and all of that was another 13.3. So, oops, I trip over all my junk here. Minus 13.3 and 7 from the dash stuff. Do some math here. Since we're just rough estimating, I just made that 13 and then 7. So we're down to 45 left to pull out. So we've taken 35 out. It seems like a lot of work for 35. Like I said before, it's easier to lose the weight off yourself than your car. Got piles of scrap and all kinds of scrap. So that harness, there is some stuff in this that's going to get saved. I just got to de-pin out what is exactly necessary. It's actually very little. The majority of it, as well as all this packaging and shielding and that fuse box, are going to go away. So it'll be minimalized for sure. There it is, bare firewall. All the sound deadening is taken out. Got a little bit of this fuzz still, but that's mostly just a nuisance. Now it's time to start putting it back together. All right, all the sound deadening's out. Now for one of my favorite parts. You can see over here it's a little bit nicer looking than back here. So what I've got is just your normal toluene. This stuff it's not too bad on the paint. I mean, it will kill your clear coat. It'll take all the wax off of everything. But you can see it's not totally, it's gonna take the bright finish off. It actually works really good for paint prep. But it's gonna take this last little bit of rubber off. You can see if you give it a little elbow grease, it'll actually take those all the way down to the metal, or at least down to the E-coat. And you just clean it off, and it's going to look a lot better. Make sure you wear, I've got actual chemical gloves on, not just shop gloves. Shop gloves won't cut it. Careful when you're scrubbing here. These little guys will grab your gloves and rip them, and these gloves are a little bit expensive, so you want to try to keep them nice. Anyway, a little elbow grease, and we'll get, I'm not trying to get all of the rubber off, I just want it to look a little bit cleaner. Probably gonna paint the interior. Just hit it with a something, probably just black. Make it look pretty uniform at least. So let's pour a little bit there. You can see it just takes this stuff right off. All that adhesive from the sound deadening just comes right off with it. It looks worlds better already. Looked like that. Now it looks like that. There it is with the dash back in. Super gutted. Cleaned out quite a bit down on the bottom. I'd actually forgotten a second ago when I said I was going to paint it. I have to put carpet back in this for class stuff, so I'm not going to bother painting it. Just going to throw the carpet in. I'll just tape over the holes. Just tape over them. And put carpet in there. And that'll be perfect. That's probably it for this video. Ooh, we have one more weigh in. Another 3 pounds. My chicken scratch, 45 minus 3, 42. 42 left to get to our 80-pound goal. About halfway there. It's not too bad. Just a bunch of more crap. Duct tape stuck to me. So the next video is going to be a little bit more about the meat and potatoes. So one of the reasons why I was trying to get this all cleaned up is because it's easier to start and do what I'm about to do on a fresh, clean, open area. Boom. We need to install and mount the fuel tech itself. It's going to sit right about there. We got these 2 wire looms that are going to come back down through there and go out through that big service access hole there out into the engine bay. At least that's the current plan. Although, being that this computer is on this, the old computer was down there in the footwell. Being that this computer is over here on this side, I might actually go through, that goes into the fender. This guy down here, that grommet, I might go through that grommet. Gotta just look at it and see. The only downside is that when I started wiring the engine bay, I wired it all to the far side over there, so I'll probably still just go to that side.